This is part 4, I think it is. I've lost track of this comparison where I took Audioscape EQPA, which is right there, and then I compared it to Logic's Pultec version, Softtube's TubeTech Pultec version, and a Clark Technic EQP KT or whatever they're called. Just for my own personal, I just got the Audioscape and was excited to hear it and wanted to know was the money I spent on it worth it. And the first few, I did 2 different comparisons where the blind listens didn't let you know what was what. Then I did video 3 where I revealed what was what, but I didn't want to give my opinions. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to conflate the episodes, like, listen, this isn't about what I think, really, but at the same time, I think what I think could be useful to people, and I'm prepared to tell you today what I think. And I thought a little bit about what's the best way to go about it. I don't want to talk too much. The other videos have tons. Video 3 has long files, so you can what I just got done doing, so I could refresh and really make sure how I feel about it, is I went and I just used a little scrolly thing on YouTube, and I color coded those files. So here's Audioscape versus Logic versus blah blah blah, and I just jumped around and tried to really remind myself of the characteristics or the gut feeling on it. And there's some things that I want to say prior to talking about it. Is when you're doing a test like this where you're level matching it, you're actually removing a lot of that visceral difference that you hear when you just plug it in and you're in a session and you're like, okay, bam, that's incredible, it's huge, it's part of it is it's just louder, it sounds better, right? But it's more than that. But there's like they sound really different. When you level match them, you're trying purposefully to take that away. You're trying to make sure that it's not the volume that you're noticing. You're trying to take volume out of it. But volume in the real world is a part of the excitement. Like when you go to see a cool band and they freaking blast you with volume, that's cool and that's valid, okay? So whatever, but not in a test like this. So that out of the way, I say that because the one thing about the Audioscape is that it just, every single time that I would flip to it in the room, you can tell. It's just so obvious because there's like a power and there's a 3-dimensional thing to it that's just unmistakable compared to the soft tube, let's say, which sounds, the tone is so close. When you level match these things, some of you people who are going to be listening on less than good environments or whatever, or different sets of speakers, you're not going to hear a difference. Probably there's going to be people that say, oh, I can't tell the difference, blah blah blah. Well, you're right in a way, but you're also wrong. I could always tell. Now, I had the disadvantage in a blind test of knowing what was what, and I tried many different ways to trick myself, but I just was so familiar with the tones that I couldn't really fool myself. I could always pick the Logic, and then the soft tube and the Audioscape, because the tone is really close, sometimes. But then if you really just focus and stop and listen, you can feel the muscle of the Audioscape. There's a little bit more punch. There's just a little bit more like weight behind it, even level matched. And then the KT was like this crazy in-between thing, which blows, it's so close to the Audioscape. It's closer to the Audioscape than the other stuff. All right, I'm getting off track. All right, I'm getting excited because this was fun. But so I wrote some things down. Let me just tell you what I thought. And I was like, should I do it like fattest, punchiest, roundest, best bang for the buck, whatever? I may tell you those, but what I did is I've got each one soft tube, Logic, Audioscape, and the KT. Okay, so let's start with the soft tube. Okay, my opinion or comments or what I noticed in the room on mine, turning the dials and stuff, is I have down here, it took more work to get it to sound cool, and it did not always sound good. And it's just the thing about the difference between hardware and analog is analog, well, there it is. You can just play with it, and it's organic. You can turn 2 knobs at once. You can really just play it like an instrument, so it's easier and faster and more rewarding to turn knobs. You know, when you're using a mouse, not the same. So it's not even fair, really, but whatever. Let's acknowledge that. But the soft tube, it had its points where it wasn't like when you turn let's go to the Audioscape, because you know, obviously, you know, and you're going to say, well, it was the most expensive, so of course you want it to be the best. No, it just really, you could just really tell the difference. You know, there's a reason why people are willing to pay that much money for this compared to the KT. You know, if I could afford 2 Audioscapes, I'd have 2 Audioscapes. Right now I have 2 KT, 1 Audioscape. I'm saving, and someday I'm going to have 2 Audioscapes. If I could have 10 Audioscapes, I could, but I probably won't ever get 10 because I'm going to spend money every time I see a cheap KT. I'm going to grab it, you know, so... But I have a sickness. My name is Marty, and I'm not well. But anyway, the Audioscape, it just always sounded smooth. Always sounded muscular. Always sounded punchy. It was just incredible. Like, if you've ever driven a normal car and then got into something that's truly, like, you know, crafted, and, you know, pick any analogy you want, but dang, there was a difference. You could tell it. The KT was very similar in sound and punch, just a little less of it, you know, like just less of it. And it wasn't as smooth. Like when you got to the extreme highs and stuff, it sort of did not stand up to the Audioscape. The Audioscape was just rich and smooth and sweet, and it's just like you couldn't make it not sound cool. The KT you could, you know, and the KT has more inherent self noise. That's another important thing to remember. Now the soft tube, like I told you about, it took more work. It wasn't as smooth through the whole dial. It's just harder to set up, and it just was like less. Well, how do I want to phrase it? It just was less. It's like day old or something, you know, like you eat at the restaurant and there's the texture and there's this perfect, served at the perfect temperature, everything is perfect, and you take that bite, then you take it home the next day and it's a different thing. Flavors are awesome, it's delicious, you love it, but it's not the same experience. That was to a little degree is with soft tube. And now Logic, let's talk about Logic. It's ridiculous how cool that thing is. Now it was always cleaner sounding to me. However, one of the last thoughts I had is it cleaner? Is it maybe just focusing on a different frequency range and putting that forward? I don't know. But it never got as fuzzy, sort of saturated, compressed. Maybe it was just pokier than the other one. But it's such a cool sound. And I can think in some ways. Now, I did not compare, and this may be a rabbit hole, and God, I hope I don't have to make a bunch of videos. Maybe I'll just do it for myself and not share them, because it takes a lot of work to share these things. But you know, like, can I get the Audioscape to be as clean? It's a little leaner sounding, the Logic is, you know, and sometimes that would be awesome. You don't want to just fatten it to the point where you've lost the definition. So I don't know, but Logic is incredible. So if there was a bang for the buck category, duh, that one wins. The least bang for the buck is the Audioscape, except for I don't think so, because it does something that none of the other ones can do, and how much is that worth? I don't know. So this is a completely useless. This is why I did this as the last one, you know. And I'm looking at my thing. I'm like almost 9 minutes into this, so who's listening to this anyways? Nobody. This is just me and YouTube. Oh boy. Anyway, I'm almost done here. If I could only have one, I wrote that down. Oh, well, Logic comes free, so we're not going to count that, right? Obviously, it's got to be the Audioscape, right? Because it's incredible. It doesn't, I've learned not to say, well, there can't be anything better than that. But I can't imagine there's cooler, more fun, more smooth, more awesome EQs than this one. If they get better than this one, I'm doomed.